Hey, it's Sam from Sugar Spun Run, and today we're making a raspberry cheesecake. So I got a couple of requests for this recipe. I'm really excited about it because when I developed it, I didn't want to just do a plain cheesecake with raspberries on top. Sure, that's delicious, but I really wanted to infuse raspberry flavor throughout. So that's exactly what we did. And that's where we're going to be starting today with our raspberries. So we're going to be cooking down raspberries to make our own homemade sauce. It's not quite a jam, it's more like a raspberry sauce. It'll go in the cheesecake, it'll go on top of the cheesecake. We're going to have fresh raspberry flavor everywhere. You're going to love it. It's much better than using store-bought jam, trust me on this. So you're just going to need a small saucepan here, and you don't want to lose any berries. We're going to add 12 ounces of berries to the saucepan. You can use fresh or frozen berries for today's recipe. Both are going to give you a pretty nice flavor, so just use whichever is in season. We're also going to add a 1/4 cup of granulated sugar. Just sprinkle that over your berries. And a 1/4 cup of water. And just a tablespoon of lemon juice, which helps bring out the flavor really nicely. Now turn your heat to medium-low, and we're going to cook, stirring this pretty frequently. And as it cooks, you're going to notice that the berries start to break down and they're going to release their juices and everything's gonna get nice and juicy. It'll also start to darken in color. Just keep stirring. We will mash the berries as we cook them. And then at some point, it should start bubbling for you. We are going to cook while it bubbles until it is thickened a little bit. This isn't going to get super thick, but I want to show you what the consistency looks like. So you can see here, things are getting really juicy, but the berries are not broken down as much as I like them to be, and it's still much too liquidy. All right, so I'm feeling pretty good about the sauce. I'm gonna turn off my stovetop heat. It's not going to be like really thick or jammy. It'll still be pretty liquidy, but I'm not sure how to explain this. The movement of it feels a little more jammy. It's thickened a little bit. It's not thick, but it has thickened some. It's not so watery anymore. So I'm gonna take this off the heat, and we're going to pour this through a fine mesh strainer because I don't want all of those berries all those seeds in the cheesecake. And I'm going to use my spatula to mash this against the sides because I want as much of that juice from the berries as I can get. All right, but as I said, I do want some berries, or I keep calling them berries. I do want some seeds in here because that adds to the texture. So I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of seeds. Actually a little less because I accidentally knocked a few in there when we first started, but you should have about 2 tablespoons of seeds, and then mix that all together. Smells so good in here right now. So this needs to cool completely before you can use it in the cheesecake. So I'm going to pop it in the fridge to help speed up the process a little bit. And in the meantime, I will start getting together the other components of my cheesecake. I also want to make sure that I get my oven preheating to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. And we'll be baking our cheesecake on the center rack, so make sure that's available for you. While that's cooling down, let's make our graham cracker crust. This is my favorite graham cracker crust recipe. I use it on basically all of my cheesecakes. Start with 1.5 cups of graham cracker crumbs, which I used to be able to find those already crumbed for me in a box. Haven't been able to do that recently, so I've just been crushing my own graham crackers. I've been making my sister crush the graham crackers. I haven't been doing any of that. We're also going to add some sugar. I like to do 2 tablespoons of granulated and a tablespoon of light brown sugar. The added light brown sugar just helps the crust hold together a little bit because of the added moisture, but it really adds just a really subtle, nice depth of flavor, so it's worth adding. Now, we'll just break everything up. Mix everything up, break up the brown sugar. And then we're going to add 7 tablespoons of melted butter. You don't want your butter to be super hot or it could melt the sugars and make things a little bit greasy, so it shouldn't feel too warm to the touch. Add all of that in there. We're just going to toss everything together until all of the crumbs are moistened. Okay, we're going to be making this in a 9-inch springform pan. So I'll pour the crust in here. I'm going to press it evenly into the bottom and up the sides of the pan. And an easy way to do this is to take either a measuring cup or a straight up and down glass. Just use that to tamp the crumbs in. All right, we'll set this aside. Don't need to pre-bake it or anything. It'll firm up a bit as it sits. We can start making our cheesecake. So grab yourself a large mixing bowl. And to this, we are going to add 24 ounces of brick-style cream cheese. Don't use the kind sold in tubs. We're going to add 1 cup of granulated sugar in here with the cream cheese. We're going to stir this on low speed until it is smooth and lump-free. Plug in our mixer first. Now I'm using my electric hand mixer. You can absolutely use your stand mixer. Just one thing to note, if you're doing that, use the paddle attachment and scrape the sides and bottom of the bowl frequently, just because cream cheese lumps like to hide near the bottom down there. I'm still going to scrape the sides and bottom of my bowl here just because I want to be totally sure there are no lumps. Those lumps will stick with your cheesecake even after it's baked. Next thing you're going to need is a ½ cup of sour cream. If you've made any of my cheesecakes before, you know I think this is an absolutely essential ingredient in cheesecake. Some recipes use heavy cream. It's just not as good. You're not going to get as good of a taste or texture that way. I'll never steer you wrong with cheesecake. We're also going to add a teaspoon of vanilla extract. We'll stir everything together. All right, next we are going to be adding our eggs. You'll need 3 large eggs for today's recipe, and these should ideally be room temperature. Now, when you're making a cheesecake, one thing you want to avoid is whipping too much air into the batter or beating the eggs too much. If you do that, you can end up with a texture that is actually too airy. The cheesecake will tend to rise in the oven and then fall as it cools, and your texture can just be kind of a little more crumbly. It's not desirable. So what we're going to do to help minimize our chance of overbeating the mixture is we're going to lightly beat each egg with a fork before we add it to the batter. This will give it a head start. And then we're going to add the eggs one at a time, which is going to help ensure that we evenly incorporate them. And we are going to stir them on low speed after each addition, just until combined. So there's 1 egg, egg number 2, all right, and our 3rd egg. So now we want to scrape the sides and bottom of the bowl. We want to make sure everything is thoroughly combined, no streaks of egg, no cheesecake lumps, anything like that. Always glad when I do this. I usually find something that wasn't completely mixed. All right, and let's grab our springform pan. Now I'm going to add a little less than half the batter into the pan. Just don't forget, we're putting the raspberry in here as well. Now let's check on our raspberry sauce. This should be completely cooled at this point. We're going to drizzle about a 1/3 cup, I'd say a little less than a 1/3 cup, over the cheesecake. Now if you want to swirl it at this point you can, but you're not really going to be seeing those swirls because this is going to be the middle of the cheesecake, so it's not really a huge deal. This is just to add that flavor to the center of the cheesecake. That way you have raspberry truly throughout every bite. So now I'm going to gently and evenly pour the remaining batter over top. All right, then we're going to take a little less than another 1/3 cup and we're going to drizzle this over the top of the cheesecake. Now I do like to be a little bit more careful with this because you'll actually see this on top of the cheesecake. We'll use our knife to swirl through here. This is where things get pretty. And you will notice at this point you still have raspberry sauce left over. You're supposed to. We're going to save this for adding on top. It's like the cherry on top, or I guess the raspberry on top. So don't panic. Just cover this, put it in your fridge, and save it there until you're ready to use it. Now we'll take this over to the center rack of our preheated oven, and it's going to need to bake for about 45 to 55 minutes. When the cheesecake is finished baking, you may notice that the edges may have puffed slightly. They shouldn't have puffed a lot or anything like that, but the edges should look done. And if you give it a slight jiggle, the very center will still jiggle a bit, sort of like Jell-O, but it shouldn't be super liquidy inside. When your cheesecake is finished baking, what you're going to do is you'll turn off the oven temperature and you're going to crack the door like 1 inch or 2, and you're going to let it cool in your oven for an hour before you remove it. This is going to help reduce the risk of getting any cracks in your cheesecake. So after an hour, you can remove your cheesecake from the oven. It's actually not even that hot anymore. And let it cool until it's reached room temperature, and then pop it in your fridge where it's going to need to chill for at least 6 hours, preferably overnight, before you can dig in. And I do have another cheesecake that I prepped last night, so we're going to go ahead and cut into that one so you can see how it looks. All right, so here's the cheesecake I prepped yesterday. Looks beautiful, if I do say so myself. And at this point, you're probably remembering, what about that leftover sauce that we have in the fridge? So I hold on to that, and then I like to add some fresh raspberries guess this is about a cup of raspberries, and just toss them in the sauce. That way it gives you a nice fresh raspberry sauce to serve alongside your already raspberry infused cheesecake. Let's go ahead and dig in. I always get so nervous cutting things on camera. Probably because I always do a bad job. This smells so good. You should really always wipe down your knife between cuts. It's how you keep your cheesecake looking its best. Slice after slice. Whew. It was a little stressful cutting that. All right, and then you can serve this with your sauce on the side. It's gonna be so good. And that is how you make my personal favorite raspberry cheesecake. If you try this one at home, leave me a comment, let me know what you think. I really do always love hearing from you. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. This is gonna be so good. That is a good cheesecake. Oh my gosh. I didn't cut all the way through, guys. What an amateur. Oh, I made a mess. Try not to spill it all over your counter. This is why I get so stressed